Steve Palazzolo there on the defensive line class and all that good stuff. A couple things you could obviously take away from that, Joe. One of them is the offensive talent in the draft will probably be good late. If everybody goes defense first, think about last year's draft. Was the first defensive player taken 16th?
Yes, it was something like that. Middle of the draft.
Latu, defensive end of the Colts. It was way late. And that's a guy that was projected to go maybe top 10. So, if you are someone that wants, not just the Bills here, but any team that wants a receiver or offensive lineman, you might find really good value late first, early second, late second because of the big run on defensive tackles and defensive ends. So it could work that way.
Yeah, there were last year, it looks like 8 defensive players that went in the first round.
Yeah, that's it. And this year it'll be what, 20?
Yeah, 9 last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll double. It'll definitely double. And you're right, 15th was the first one that it got picked. This year, I mean, the way that it sounds, there are going to be 3 receivers that go in the first round this year.
Probably.
There's going to be 2 quarterbacks. Does that sound fair? Should I say 3 quarterbacks?
I would bet a third goes.
All right. So 3 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, 2 running backs, I bet. I think the second guy whose name's escaping me behind Ginty is thought to be a first-round pick. I don't think there's a tight end, and then you have your offensive lineman. So that's but there's not going to be 15 offensive linemen that go in the first round. So what's going to make up for that? It's going to be all defensive players.
One position we have not talked about for the Bills, and maybe we should start, linebacker. Is linebacker in the cards in the first round?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
Why do we have to talk about linebacker?
Because they're going to plan for Matt Milano's departure. They're going to plan for that.
Okay.
Because
okay.
If they find the right guy, I saw yesterday Chris Paul Jr., he goes by Pooh Paul.
Pooh Paul?
Isn't he? He's a coverage linebacker.
Yeah.
I just think that they could very, very easily look at let's look at the defense big picture. You want to fix your defense, and you think it's about getting difference makers. You are probably not that far away from losing Matt Milano as a true difference maker. If you already don't think you've lost that based on his availability, he's missed so much time. I mean, when the Bills have Dorian Williams out there are things to like about Dorian Williams. Do you like him as a full-time starter?
I'm fine with him as a full-time starter, maybe. I don't necessarily love it. I'm fine with it.
But once you go down from Milano to Dorian Williams, you lose that blue-chip game. I mean, Milano has kind of been a game wrecker. And I want to at least acknowledge that if the right player were to fall to them there, especially if there's a run on defensive line. Let's say this is how the draft works every year, right? Let's say 16 defensive linemen have gone before the Bills pick, which is possible. And you're on linebacker 3. What are you going to do? I think linebacker is in the mix.
The thing about that, though, how do you feel about them drafting a position where it's not going to matter this year? It's going to be like Cole Bishop last year where, all right, he's going to sit behind another guy, he's going to develop, and what are we going to be saying in a year then? It's going to be, well, I don't know, how good is this guy? He would have got out on the field.
But isn't that what the Eagles do? Is they say, holy cow, the talent at this spot for this player is incredible, I'm going to take this player. The Eagles are not always looking for who can contribute right away, and the Bills may have been doing that to a fault, maybe. What do they need? Kyer Elam. Put him in. We need a corner. Okay, he has not contributed. Dalton Kincaid. We need a pass catcher. Okay, he did year 1. Keon Coleman right away. That's what we need. Is he the best player at that spot? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
We all wanted a receiver. It seems most times when they have a very obvious need, they go right for that need, and it just happens to line up with best player available kind of stuff. I would just be I'm keeping linebacker on the radar.
I think the Eagles, by the way, they do it. They've mostly, I'm looking at their draft history. They've done it, but they've done it really with defensive line.
Right.
And I think there is something to be said for doing that mentality of, we're already full here, but this guy's unbelievable, let's pick him. I think that's a better idea when you're talking about positions that are rotational. Because if you're a defensive lineman, that if the Bills were to draft, or the Eagles were to draft another defensive lineman this offseason, right? They already have a bunch of guys. That guy will play. Mm-hmm. He might not play 80% of the snaps, but he'll get on the field. He'll get on the field 25, 30% of the time. If you draft a receiver and you already have 2 really good ones in front of him or 3 really good ones in front of him, all right, he might not start, but you're going to see him. He's going to be out there. You're going to get a look. And if you draft, I think if you draft a linebacker in the first round or the second round, I don't think I'm ever seeing him. Unless there's an injury.
I think you might see him right away. Let's also look at their history of drafting linebacker. The last 2-3 times they've done it, it's been Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard. And in both spots, didn't we say, why? What'd you do that for?
But that's round 3, right?
I know that's round 3, but in both cases, we would have said, you don't really need that. And
we had the same reaction both times.
Yes, both times. It was, are you sure? Why'd you do that? And I just think that you're closer than ever to Milano not being a regular piece of your defense. And again, like, who are the big pieces going forward? Taron Johnson is also a guy that's, how much time is there left? This defensive transition we saw away from Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, on and on. Mm-hmm. There's a second grouping that will eventually age out for the next core of this defense. And if this is a transition year defense where this is kind of year 2. Sure, they want to win, but they're building it from scratch. And if they're building it with different philosophies, that's the other thing. Like Sal's talked about this. Are they going to go more man coverage? Are they going to be more open to going 4-3 and having 3 linebackers at times based on how teams line up? So I just think it's in the mix for sure. And, defensive linemen and linebackers, I'm seeing they've met with a lot of them.
Yeah, that's right. Do you want to know Pro Football Focus where Dorian Williams graded last year? 90 linebackers in the league last year that qualified for this.
It's either going to be 2 or 87.
Not quite. There's actually a different punchline here, which is he actually ranked 62nd. That's total grade, including the coverage and the tackling and the run defense. 62nd out of 90. That also was the best Bills linebacker. By those metrics, those grades, I can call metrics.
I know that PFF is not impressed with Terrell Bernard too much.
They had him graded as one of the worst coverage linebackers in football last year. So, but he's not going anywhere. So, no, we're not really.
In fact, I think he's getting extended.
Yes, I think he's getting extended. Nor am I rushing to judgment on that. And PFF grades aren't perfect, so this might be one guy where you might want to dive into the weeds and figure out why is his number popping up as that, and is he making up for it with turnovers? Which he is one of those guys that does do that more than others. He's a more boomer bust type player than Tremaine Edmunds was. Right? Edmunds was not many mistakes, but no splash plays, just nothing. And Bernard, maybe you do get more mistakes, but if you're getting a pick, against the Chiefs, and if you're getting a fumble punched out against the Ravens, then that's gonna equate for the 3 mistakes that he makes more than an Edmunds would. I don't know though. But again, you've got 3 guys there that I feel pretty good about going into next year. To draft a 4th one at a premium position like that, when I'm trying to beat Kansas City. Everything in my mind right now is, how does this help me beat the Chiefs in 2025 and in 2026? And I'm not saying a linebacker can't help me do that. I just think it's a lot harder to get there than any defensive lineman, any wide receiver, even the safety idea. Linebackers after all that for me.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550 if you want to chime in on this. I mean, I'm not telling you they should. I'm just telling you
that they could. How many positions do you think they could?
In the first 2 rounds?
First 2 rounds. How many positions could they do it?
Okay, in the first 2 rounds, it could be, of course, edge, tackle, linebacker, corner, safety, receiver.
Okay, that's it?
That's the list, right? What else would there be?
Let's do the other way. They're not picking a quarterback. They're not picking a tight end.
They're not picking a running back.
It'd be incredible if they picked a tight end.
They're not picking an offensive lineman. I don't think they're picking an offensive lineman.
But how different is offensive lineman from linebacker on that front?
I'll give you one difference. The difference is the linebackers are not good and the linemen are. right? The offensive line is one of the best, and the linebackers, and if you're talking about trying to just overhaul your defense and build something.
But is my logic like a best player available, and this guy might not play right away, but maybe he's in my future? Because I'll pick the one, maybe the weakest point you might pick out on the offensive line. Is David Edwards just like their left guard forever? Or if they picked a guard in the second round, will we go, all right, this guy's going to play after David Edwards' contract's up in a year?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they also run 6 offensive linemen a lot.
and that's
they
right.
signed Alec Anderson.
They have an extra guy. And running back, we would say they wouldn't do, right?
I would think they would
I'm a little more open to them doing running back in the second round than... Actually, you know what?
You cannot be open to that. You take that back right now.
I'm not.
You cannot be open to running back in the second round.
Are they best player available? Or are they best player available? Because the class at running back, it sounds like it's going to be awesome. And Bean's talking about the skill set needed when you need a weapon out of the backfield and you need to be able to play all 3 downs and pass blocking. And to me, what he said lines up with what the class is. I still would think it's less likely than more likely, but
if they take a running back and talk about his pass catching ability, I'm just going to walk into the lake.
I'll make a bet with you right now. You want to put it up on the bet board?
Sure.
I'll take running back, you take linebacker. I think they're more likely to take a running back in the first 2 rounds.
What do they take? Let's go, what do they take earlier?
What do they take earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, when we get to the day 3, though. Okay, fine. Yes,
the 4th round matters. Milano's a 5th. Shakir's a 5th.
All right, fine. What do they take earlier? Running back or linebacker?
All right, put a Twitter poll.
I think running back.
Let's do a Twitter poll on it too. Which do they take first of those 2 positions, linebacker or running back? All right, good to get a bet on the bet board. We were due.
Weren't we gonna put something up there the other day and we ended up not doing it because it was gonna take forever?
What was it?
It was gonna take like 20 years, wasn't it?
Yes, it was some sort of legacy bet.
Someone being a GM.
Oh, it was that Jack Eichel was going to be the GM of the Bruins.
Yeah, we don't need to take up a spot on the bet board for 20 years. We really don't need to just look at that every day. All right, we'll put this one up. Running back or linebacker, what's going to be earlier? I think it could be running back.
What's going to win the poll?
I bet it's going to be close. I bet it's going to be close.
They have drafted each of these positions a good amount. I mean, lots of running backs and linebacker, a decent amount as well. They've drafted more running backs and linebackers than defensive tackles in this regime. That's for sure. They're coming out of this with, we started this segment, Steve Palazzolo, they were talking about multiple defensive tackles. And, yeah, I think the Bills could come away with 2, for sure.
Yeah. The thing that might help you in this, I bet we know, we're going to know the answer on running back earlier than we're going to know the answer on linebacker for whether they would take one, how early they were going to take one, because linebacker, there's really nothing to figure out between now and the draft. It's just, are they going to take one, or are they kind of just going to roll with what they've got? Like, running back, if they sign Ty Johnson, then it's going to be, okay, that's pretty much off the table.
Right.
Versus if they don't sign Ty Johnson for whatever reason, maybe he was on tape. Like, there are going to be teams around the league that saw what he did. Maybe heard Josh Allen call him the best 3rd down back in the league. If somebody signs Ty Johnson away, then I'm thinking they are definitely taking a running back at some point in this draft.
Yeah, free agency, of course, will factor this in a lot. I'm going back. I'm thinking about just this linebacker conversation. I'm thinking about how McDermott sounded about Milano at the end of the year. And Milano will, in theory, be healthy. But he was talking about Milano like he'll get every opportunity again. And that's...
I think him heating up as the season got later, right into the playoffs, I think helps that, right?
Yeah.
If he had looked like Vaughn did 2 years ago where there was just nothing happening at all, then maybe this is a lot different. But he was great against the Jets, wasn't he? And he was he was be pretty good in the playoffs.
He turns 30 next month. Milano does. He turns 30.
Yep.
Your starting stud linebacker is 30. To me, is a reason you could be hunting there.
Well, part of that also, like, just specifically on this bet we just made. Another implication is, who are they more likely to pay? And I think Terrell Bernard is more likely to be paid than James Cook is, personally. Because
that's also a tough one.
Like if they have, I don't know what they think of James Cook. I'm pretty sure they're just going to sign Terrell Bernard, right? And then that takes away a spot at linebacker. If we're going to pay Terrell Bernard, of course we are. In running back, they're talking like they love James Cook and they're just going to give him a contract. They're going to work something out, but. That's talk. Like, I don't know. I still feel like I don't truly know what their motivation is there. How motivated are they? Is it like with Gabe Davis or with other guys where, yeah, we'd like to have him back, but we are not paying market rate or we are not breaking the bank for this guy? Like, how comfortable are they saying, yeah, we're probably not going to work something out with James and we're just going to draft another one? And maybe we have one in the bag ready to go by the time, we can't get something figured out with him. Again, he's not a 3-down back. So that matters to this too.